All right. Let's get cozy. Here for a minute. How's everybody feeling this evening? Thank you all for coming out. Appreciate the sponsors, and definitely appreciate you, Jay, taking time out of your hectic schedule, especially going into the week leading up to the biggest one music fest Atlanta's ever seen. So it should be dope. So actually, first off, I do want to first off just pay homage because I've been watching you for a minute. I actually interned for you a couple of years ago and stuff like that, and I had the opportunity to learn a good deal. And it's also just dope to see, somebody that looks like you, doing, great things in the industry, do something inspiring for sure. So hopefully, you'll inspire people tonight with some of the stuff I'm gonna get into. So we'll start off first with where it all started, your background, where you from, and kind of like your upbringing through, I guess, through the college years. Hold on.
Appreciate it. Trying to make it sexy. I forgot the question. The lights went out.
No, basically, let's get into your background. Where you come from, kind of like your upbringing, I guess, through college and stuff like that.
Okay. Moved to Atlanta, originally from Harlem, New York. Moved to Atlanta right at the start of high school. It's crazy because actually I see some high school friends in the audience. This is kind of like this is your life. Moved down there. Father got a promotion. Worked with Xerox for 7 years. It was either Rochester or Atlanta. He chose Atlanta. Had a difficult time with Justin at first. Of course, we moved to Stone Mountain actually. So we came from 135th Street in Harlem to Stone Mountain, Georgia. So that was tough. But after a couple of years, I realized I was going to move back to New York. After high school, went to Florida A&M. Did my 4+1. Got it, and came right back to Atlanta. And actually started working for the family business soon thereafter I graduated.
But what did you study at FAM?
Say again?
What did you study at FAM?
I studied business economics. I was business administration, then I got into business economics. Business administration was dope, but it felt like it was really preparing me to be a worker in the job force. Business economics made me feel like it gave me the tools to where I can run a business rather than just work for a business.
What was your, I guess your initial plan, when you went to college? Like, all right, I'm gonna get this degree and then I'm gonna get like X, Y, Z job. Did you have like a kind of a vision of what kind of job you wanted post college, or?
That's a good question, man. Going to college, I always thought I was gonna some way somehow end up being in law. But honestly, when I first got there as a freshman, I had no idea what I was going to do after 4 years. A lot of people say once you go to college, you sometimes figure it out. Some people figure it out when they, young. But for me, it was I was uncertain. I really enjoyed law and debate, but I figured getting into business would give me a good foundation, and it did. And sometimes, we talked a little bit about this before. Sometimes your purpose finds you, and just interacting with my friends at FAM were across the board. It was from super bookworms to I want to be a thug when I'm in college to what I'm saying. It was across the whole entire diaspora. But one friend of mine, which was Rob Hardy, he had an idea of doing a movie back in college called Chocolate City. And he's like, yo, I want you to be involved. I was like, I have no idea. I don't know anything about the movie industry or film or none of it. He said, I just need you involved. I'm going to write a script. And when I write the script, I'm going to come back to you and I need you on the team. I said, all right, you write the script, I'll help you. Back in college, we drinking and kicking it, and he kind of just wrote it off. 2 months later, he came back with a script. And I promised him I was going to help. So that kind of started a a pseudo-entertainment side of my world and my development. And Rob and myself have brought on a gentleman by the name of Will Packer and a couple other cats. And we actually, at the age of 20 years old, we shot, produced our own film, got a video distribution deal. This is back in when Blockbusters was popping, so you know, it was old. So we got a video distribution deal. The video was Blockbusters Worldwide. We was 20 years old, man. We shot that movie for like $20,000. And they went off to make multi-million-dollar blockbuster films, and I kind of spun off and did my own thing, but we still keep in contact to this day.
But that was kind of like your first like step into the entertainment.
That's when it hit me.
Yeah.
Because I was in charge of marketing. I helped produce it. I oversaw the soundtrack. And at that moment, I was like, "This is something. This is something." Then we had to promote the film, and we sold it out all over Florida. We got a screening done in at the CAA. If anybody familiar with the CAA, it's kind of a big deal to do a screening at the CAA in LA. Black Filmmakers Foundation did a screening in New York. And it's all at the age of 20. And I think that the moral to that story is like, you don't know what you don't know, you know, and don't put limits on yourself. None of us knew anything about filmmaking, and look at those guys today.
Yeah, the best way to learn is really just kind of dive in for, just make all the mistakes along the way.
No doubt.
That was dope. So I guess we'll segue that to as when you moved back to Atlanta from college, and you started getting involved in the entertainment industry out here a little bit more.
Nah, not really. Not really. You know, I was working for the family business, and I did that for a few years, and I actually ended up getting kind of into law. I was a legal consultant with a company named LexisNexis. But back in the day, man, we, and one of my homies in the back, he can attest, we used to throw ridiculous house parties on the weekend while we lived in Stone Mountain. So we were young dudes in our 20s, and we all had, we had nice homes for that age and that time. And, it could be 300, 400, 500, 600 people that would pop up at a house party. And I had no thoughts of being a promoter. Never, ever. And a young lady was at the house party, and she's like, "Yo, like, how y'all getting all these people to come out to Stone Mountain on a Friday, Saturday night?" And I was like, "I don't know, shit, just call folks up and shit, send them, hit them on the beeper, be like, yo, folk, and bring some with you," and that was it. We just kind of had a reputation for going like little crazy house parties, and she was like, "Yo," and she was the manager of a club at that time, so she's like, "Yo, you should come to the club, and why don't you do this when you're at the club?" And I said, "If you pay for it, I'll do it, but I don't want to just be out there promoting things and struggling for money, trying to promote part. You pay for it, I'll do it." And she did. And that was my first party. I think like right when Mike Vick got signed by the Falcons.
So like what's up there?
Yeah, I'm really dating myself, right? So he came through with a whole bunch of ball players and shit. They're like, "Oh, this your party, shit is crazy." I was like, "It is, this shit is crazy." And that kind of really started. I was still working in corporate America too, and trying to juggle this party thing that was just started developing.
And so when did you make the leap to just kind of get into it full time and kind of just try to leave the corporate thing, you know what I'm saying, on its own?
So I was doing it it was easy doing it while I worked for the family business because I had flexibility. But then I didn't want to put that burden on the family business. So I got a tap on the shoulder by a recruiter for a really cushy corporate job. And that was hard to give up, man. I mean, they paid for everything, man. All expenses paid. But it also allowed me to work out of the crib. So I said, all right, so while I'm trying to test the waters and see if there's something in this, promotion, event production thing, let me do that on somebody else's dime. And so I was moonlighting. I was doing these events and working corporate. And I knew it was time for me to make the leap when I had to go on site visits with my manager into a law firm And I walked into the law firm, we sat in the office waiting for the attorneys and the paralegals to come in. And when they walked in, they were like, "Oh shit, I was at your party last week, dude, it was crazy. It was on a ballpoint lick." And so my manager's looking at me like, well, what is he talking about? And that's when I was like, oh. So my world started colliding. And now we got quit. Yeah, I said, all right. Let me go and just see what this can do out here. So yeah, that's when I quit. And yeah.
No, then you got into as on like a party series.
So I didn't. So the main party that I did, or brand that I first started off with was an event called Soul Fusion, and that was back in 2002, really, or one maybe. So the whole concept behind that, which is funny because it really kind of just matriculated into what One Music Fest is. Our tagline was Intercontinental Love Fest, right? It was like a party for everybody. You know, we had all types of music, all walks of life. I mean, it could be from your dope boys to your corner office execs to, you know, it was just everybody. It was just a mixed bag of all different types of folks. And we concentrated on playing all different types of music. And the first Soul Fusion was back at a spot called Karma, downtown, right around the corner from the Rialto Theater. And I'll never forget the first party we did. We probably had like 30 people in there. You know, it was a. But the reason for that event was I didn't see anything out there like it. You know, like when I went into the clubs, it was just always the same energy and vibe, and you know, I was like, well, you know, this is some bullshit, really. Like, why can't you know? I can still listen to what's on the radio, but play some classics. Play like mix up a little house or some reggae, some disco, some Chicago vibe. Like there was too much music out there, not to just have it all in one place, in one party, in one nightclub, and just kind of create this whole feel-good vibe. You know, and it didn't have to be. And also, what I saw on the other side was things with either extremely eclectic, maybe it's the best word, safest word to use, or it was just kind of, you know, just commercial out. But I was like, like for instance, like DJ Drama, right? So I knew DJ Drama back when he had dreads and was spinning and was playing music like, I don't know if you know DJ Jamad is, but Drama was like trying to spin music like Jamad. Like he looked at Jamad as Jamad was like the king. And Jamad always, he had a good balance of like current music and bringing the old stuff, and it was just a whole vibe. And Jamad's his mixtape really kind of inspired the idea also around Soul Fusion. So, you know, it was going to take a second for, I think, the general population to understand and get the event. But, you know, we went from 30 to 50 to 100 to 200. And then one day I looked up and we had damn near like 700, 800 people at the event. And I was like, oh no, people, I think they get it now.
That's dope. So, was there anything you learned in like the Soul Fusion period that kind of prepared you for what you were getting yourself into with One Music Fest?
Yeah, I think there's little lessons. You know what I'm saying? I think all throughout life, I think for all of us, you know, there's gonna be like this Mr. Miyagi moment. This wax on, wax off, you know, this Danielson shit. Like, you like, man, why you let me paint this fence, dude? Like, you know, but then you realize, like, these little small tools that you learn along the way, you know, prepare you for the bigger picture. So, I mean, with Soul Fusion, I really had no desires to be a promoter, but that business economics background said, you gotta manage your books, you know what I'm saying? You just left a cushy corporate job, and now you're relying on this. How you gonna eat? You know what I'm saying? So it's really trying to, you know, understand one, your finances, but also understanding who you are. So it was, you know what? I need to back up a little bit. The other thing that really made me leave corporate was at one of the events. It was a young lady. Her name was Emily Parker. I'll never forget her. She approached me at the party. She's like, yo, I work for Heineken, and I would love to have Heineken a part of this event. And this is back in like 2003. And at that time, I was like, well, Heineken is very much a part of me. I drink about a 6-pack a day. So tell me more. So she was just like, well, you know, we would love to have the brand kind of infused in the event. And at that time, I wasn't that aware of what brand marketing was, right? So, you know, as she kept talking, you know, the wheels kept turning. I was like, okay, this is something else. And then this was the question that changed everything. I asked Emily, I said, what would make the perfect partnership for Heineken? And then you just shut up and just let her talk. And then she said, oh, if we could do this, if we could do this, and if you could figure out, and I'm just taking notes. I'm like, okay. So basically, I'm putting together a proposal based off everything that you're telling me. And it was at that moment I was like, oh, you don't throw events. You're a brand marketer. And you throw events. So I didn't combine the two, right? And so she told me what made sense to her. And I went back and I started just kind of doing numbers. And I was like, well, if I'm doing like 60 events for them a year, and they're doing this, and I'm getting this, you know, and they pay X amount per event, this is the number. And it was a big number. I was like, they ain't gonna pay me this. And so I pitched it, and she brought it back to the folks, and a couple weeks later, it was actually a quicker turnaround, maybe a week later, they said, all right, cool, we'll do it. I said, oh shit, and that's when I quit. That's when I left corporate. I said, oh shit, I said, okay. So I ended my first client back in 2002, 2003.
Okay, what was the, I guess, first activation y'all worked on together? Do you remember that?
Shit, it was, they acquired Dos Equis, and they acquired Storyboard, right? So we were actually the first urban outfit in Atlanta to really market Dos Equis. And we pushed the heck out of Dos Equis. And after that year, their relevance and market placement in Atlanta increased by like 21%.
Wow.
So they accredited us to helping with that number. So, I mean, we've been rocking with them for the last 16, 17 years. So yeah, that was really our first activation. We started a couple of weekly events. We gave them Soul Fusion, which was a monthly event. Then we did some pop-up events for them as well.
So as that Soul Fusion started to grow, you say like basically like the next logical step was to like let's entertain maybe doing this festival?
No. It was, I had the idea of the festival, but never pushed the button on it. And before we even got to the festival, it was myself, a gentleman named Richard Dunn, Freddie Luster, a guy named Tom Cook, and Josh Andalucci. Josh and Tom, they used to own, well, they still own, Center Stage, which used to be Earth Went Live back in the day. And the folks down at the underground were trying to get them to open up a venue down there. And they was like, we don't know if we can do it, and then they called, I think they called Richard Dunn, and then Richard called Freddie, and Freddie was one of the homies of Yin Yang Cafe back in the day, and they called me. And they said, look, we got an opportunity, it's like $5 a square foot, it's cheap down the underground. And he said, why don't we open up a club? Y'all can run it, do whatever, you know, but y'all can take majority ownership, and y'all run this bad boy. And so it was really, it was only a live music venue that really started fueling the idea for the festival. And then once I started going to different cities and looking at the different festivals out there and realized that there was zero programming for outdoor, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, 12 years ago, outdoor multi-stage, hip-hop driven festivals with folks that looked like me wasn't happening. But I was having a ball at these other ones, but it was a misrepresentation of us in the audience, but it would be some of our music on the stage. I was like, this is bullshit. Like, I really just thought, like, you know, why they have it on the front? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I said, all right, well, I started putting together the idea. And then I looked at the numbers and realized the festival was a totally different monster than throwing an event. But only Sugar Hill down the underground really started shooting that thought.
It started. So what actually, like, you know what I'm saying, led to you being like, all right, it's time to press the button on this?
So again, the business economics kicked in, right? I started doing the math, and I was like, oh, this is how much a festival costs. I can't afford this. And then I started pitching to some of the brands that I work with. And it was a big lift for them. And a lot of them just wasn't ready to take that leap by themselves for that entire nut. And then it's crazy. Everything's about positioning, right? It's the Mr. Miyagi wax on, wax off thing. And I got a random call from Vibe Magazine who needed an activation for one of their clients in Atlanta. And it was Mini Cooper. And I said, okay, yeah, let's talk through it. So they wanted something around live music, a live music activation, an urban live music activation. And then they told me the budget. I said, oh, that's how we work at. So I took that number, I kind of put it into the whole equation with the festival. I was like, we can do this shit. And then I said, all right. So I went to them with the proposal. I said, look, why don't we do this activation, right? And we'll call it One Music Fest. And the team, we actually had a tagline before we actually knew we wanted to call the festival. The tagline was always going to be unity through music. And then we was always trying to think of like, what word speaks unity? And then that's when we came up with one. And so I pitched them the idea of the festival. And they said, perfect, this would work. And I said, oh, damn. So it's like that little kid that chases pigeons and shit. Like, once you grab it, now what do you do? So we caught it, and now it's like, all right, now we got to build this thing. How do we do this? And so I pulled in some people that I thought could help and kind of get it up and running. Partnered with two guys, and we did it back at King Cloud Arts Center in probably the hottest day of summer. Yeah, something. Originals for women, I would never do a festival again in July on asphalt. Right? So I didn't know. Right? We had access to the venue. It didn't cost much. The guy that actually owned kind of the space, he was one of the partners that first year. So we did a festival. We did a festival there. We had Carmen, De La Soul, Guapole, Joy, Big Boogie. It's just Nick now, DJ. But it was dope. Probably only had like 2,000, 2,500 people out there. But it was that sponsor that gave me enough energy and money to really say, all right, now we gotta go. This is it.
So when, after the first one, did you like initially have to plan it like, all right, it's gonna be like an annual thing, or did you kind of plan it like a one-off, or we just kind of just, just throwing stuff at the wall and just whatever sticking, we're wrong with it?
Well, if y'all didn't know, for 5 years we lost money. Like, One Music Fest lost money, a considerable amount of money. So the first year I was like, are you sure? Yeah, sure. I was like, nah, I don't know about this one. And it was a blow. I mean, it was more than I've ever lost. So it was a blow. But it was really, I would say what made me say, we can't give up on this is it was the response we got, right? So not only from like the patrons that were there, but actually even from the artists, you know, like Maceo, the DJ for De La Soul, he kind of was like, yo, I didn't realize like this is like some black folks put this on. He's like, yeah. And we thought it was kind of bubblegummed and pieced together. He's like, yo, this is like really, this is tight. Like, yo, I ain't never really come to a festival like this, and you know, especially black folks doing this. I was, I was like, this don't happen? He's like, nah, dog, this don't happen nowhere, really. I was like, okay. And that year also, like, Common and De La Soul, they have a song together. And they never had a chance to perform it live. And the first time they performed it live together was that year at One Music Fest. They're like, yo, I ain't never get a chance to perform with De La. And it's like, man, this is dope that you found a way to kind of bring us all together. And then for the 2,500 people that attended, like, we got great, you know, the downpoured rain for about like 30, 45 minutes out there on a hot asphalt, so all the women with the naturals and everybody was Angela Davis now. But everybody still came back like, yo, that was a dope experience. So we tried to scale it down in year 2. I don't think we lost a little bit year 2. But we definitely lost money for 5 years straight. But every year the audience kept growing and growing and growing. We started getting more press. Artists started requesting to kind of be involved with it. Sponsors wanted to get involved. But every year the audience kept growing. And it's really the people that kind of said, you know what, that kind of put the charge in me to keep going. I would say year 5 almost broke the house though. Okay. And I know it's probably one of your questions, I'm probably jumping ahead.
No, do it. Hey, I got a lot of them.
But year 5, I was like, oh no.
What was the straw that almost broke the camel's back?
Jesus. So, year 5, I think I had one child by that time, had one on the way.
Pressure is on.
The pressure was on. We moved from 4th Ward Park that was our first year doing a partnership with Live Nation, right? And they actually kind of sat us down and then kind of quoted us to move the festival into Lakewood Theater. And if y'all remember, Lakewood they did urban events, but they didn't do a lot of them. Folks kind of gave up on Lakewood for a second. They had sporadic things down there. But now it seems like every weekend now they're doing something. So I think they kind of also wanted to use the brand to kind of get back in the goodwill of the urban events and urban music. But we went over there, we spent more money than we ever spent on talent. And it was just a different tax bracket trying to operate out of Lakewood Amphitheater. And we lost, when I say lost money, I'm talking about money that make you just be like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? It don't make sense. So, and then I have to give it up to my wife. She really kind of kept me in the game. She said, look, I understand. So she said, you can look at it one of 2 ways. You can look at it as you lost a lot of money, or you're investing into your dream. And I was like, you're right. Because when you do invest, you don't see an immediate return. And she's like, you put up too much time, effort, money, too many contacts, too many people are looking for, you can't stop now. And I said, God, man, I'm back in the game. Right, wipe me up and kick me back in the ring. And year 5, and that's when we broke through. The following year, we got Lauryn Hill, The Roots, we got SZA, The Internet, we did the Southern Hip Hop Legends. Who else we had? That was a crazy year. 1B, Crit, Scarface. Man, that was a year. And we made a little bit of profit.
The One Music Fest is kind of getting into the bubble where they're kind of known for almost doing the impossible. You know what I'm saying? They dug up who? For this festival? What? I haven't seen them do anything in 20 years. What's going on? So I think y'all kind of have a flair for that. Create big memories like the Jacket Family reunion. Y'all got Lauryn Hill for
Right. Yeah, that was some good. They They called us, the media was calling us the Lauren Whisperer. I want to stay 15 minutes late.
This was during the period of time where she was like not coming to shows or showing up hours late and stuff, and like she was pretty prompt for this one, which was like everybody was waiting for it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Everybody had the tomatoes in hand, and I had my tomato in my pocket. You know what I'm saying? But I would say, like memories wise, like how do you go about kind of just deciding like, all right, this is something I'm going to try to aim for this year, like.
So I'm gonna tell you the trick. And the trick is like, well, how you want to top that year? The trick is don't. Don't. Like, everyone's like, nah, you gotta go big. Nah, why? You know what I'm saying? Like, why don't we just keep doing what we're doing, but doing it better, right? So, because doing it big is what, all right, so you, and for y'all I don't think a lot of people also understand how much artists cost. Hey, why don't y'all just get such and such? Really? Like, you know, at the height of his career, how much y'all think Kendrick Lamar cost? At the height? What do you say?
At least about 50.
Price is right. Price is right. 100. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Y'all cut the cameras off in this one. Y'all might get me. Kendrick Lamar is $1.5 million. At the height of his career, Beyonce gets over $2 million to perform. Why don't y'all just get for real? So the other thing is, like, if you go big, right, where do you go after that? That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't keep chasing the carrot, right? Just stay the course. You know what I'm saying? Believe in the process, right? And so our thing is not what's the biggest act we can get. It's like what's the dopest culmination, collective of artistry and urban music we can put together. So, you know, so how do you get Coffee and get Usher? You know what I'm saying? And get a Rick Ross. Like how do we make that all work? And then you have this whole gumbo jambalaya dish, right? And then you find like the threads that connects it all. And that's when you sit back and be like, that's it. You know what I'm saying? So it's not about let's just dump all our money into one big act and hope they can get us over the top. Nah, let's create the real cultural experience, right? The moment. So, yeah, that's why you don't see Beyonce, Rihanna, and Bruno Mars at one music fest. $1 million acts, man.
So, I was maybe like your top 2 to 3 like big One Music Fest moments where you kind of step back and be like, wow, like that just happened.
Yeah. There's a whole story there. All right, so we can get into that. So, how did it start? So it's always been a dream to do like a Dungeon. So before the Dungeon Family, we did the Goody Mob reunion back in 2013, where they all split up. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wasn't really vibing. Then we called Win, and they were thinking about they had another album that was going to drop, and they was thinking about getting back. Well, not. They were thinking about getting back together and putting out another album. And then we had connections to CeeLo, and spoke with CeeLo about it, and he put us in contact with management agents, and realized that this was going to be a real moment here with you know, getting Goody Mob back together, and everyone was like, I bet you Outkast's gonna come. I bet you Outkast's gonna come. And they're, you know, and at that point we was like, Outkast is, like, we don't know if we're gonna see them perform again. And then the following year is when they announced that they were doing that whole, you know, right, the whole reunion. So seeing that moment, and I was there front and center, you know, at Centennial Park for the Outkast show. And if you're in an event production festival business, you're looking at that performance like, damn, I wish I could get this. But how can I make this happen? But Andre, I mean, he is a purple unicorn, bro. Like, it's hard to lasso him, man. He's just, he just moves the way he wants to move and does what he wants to do. So started speaking with management. They used to manage actually the Organized Noise Collective, Orlando McGee. He's a G. And then we started talking to it, and he's like, why don't we put it together? Why don't we put together a Dunya family show? Andre's not going to show up. He's not going to be a part of it. But there's more than enough music, you know what I'm saying? Just amongst the Dunya family alone, we'll be a hell of a show. And I said, you know what, let's do it. You know, and started talking to Big Boy. It was Big Boy, Rico Wade, and Orlando that really kind of corralled everybody. But also, they were bickering all within themselves as well. So it was a bigger moment than just a show. Like, I mean, it was grown men backstage crying. It was a reunion. And they said One Music Fest is the moment that actually brought us all back together. And they were showing the threads. They would all be on the threads on text. And it was like, we haven't laughed like this in over a decade, man. And we all haven't talked probably over a decade. But now, no one deleted the thread. So now they still kind of on communication 3 years later in this whole thread. And also, we didn't know that Andre was going to show up to the day of. So Andre popped up at a rehearsal 2 weeks before One Music Fest, and started asking about the playlist. And when they showed him the playlist, he's like, well, why don't y'all? And he's like, well, you ain't even doing the show. Why, you know what I'm saying? What you working on the playlist for? And then, and so he started rehearsing. He did one song and rehearsed one song with them. And they took some of his suggestions. And earlier the day of the festival, they were like, look, man, he came to the rehearsal, but Andre gets stage fright. He gets anxiety. And in the thread, he was like, look, guys, I love y'all. I appreciate everything, man, but I don't know if I can do this. And they was like, we understand, man. We understand. I mean, you know, take your time. If you can make it, it would be great to see you. If you're not, you know, we won't push forward. And I would say around 8 o'clock that night at the festival, somebody grabbed me by the collar of my shirt. They said, Dre just pulled up. I said, shut up. I said, no, I said, Dre here. And then, and that was the same year we had Erykah Badu, right? And so somebody pulled me backstage, you know, and you saw Dre. Dre in the middle of the song with a Scully hat on, a sweatshirt. Wasn't sweating. So, yeah, hey man, you know, yeah. And so the word just spread like wildfire. So meanwhile, you got Erykah Badu that's on another stage performing, and that's probably the worst stage of not her career, but probably of the festival. So while she was performing, she made mention that Dre was pulling up and was going to be on, was going to join the Dunya family for this set. And that's when everybody left her stage and walked to the main stage. So that was probably one of the best moments. To get Lauryn Hill to cooperate, that was a moment. I don't know if y'all, we had a few. I mean, Yasin Bey told us we was gonna have a farewell show. And he started performing all over America. But after, that would have been a moment. But he caught the bug after he performed at One Music Fest. Jill Scott killed it. Those were moments last year, man. I remember the Crunk set last year. Like, yo, it was, oh man.
In the rain.
In the rain. When, Princess, she came up on stage, and the exact moment in her song where she mentioned the rain pouring down rain, it just started raining. And we saw the cloud coming, and you know, black folks in rain, bro. So I was like, oh, this ain't gonna be good. This ain't gonna be good. And then it started raining right on her exact moment in her song, and nobody left. Actually, it turned up another notch when it started raining. And I was like, oh, this is suck. And then the rain kind of passed, and I was like, that day. But the Crunk set last year, that was a moment too.
That's right. So right now, we're 10 years in, when Music Fest is standing the test of time. So going to the 10th year, your biggest year, y'all moved to Centennial Park this year, huge. Let's just talk about, I guess, you know what I'm saying, let's talk about summer 2019 real quick, and then let's make it out of here in a second, so.
There's gonna be a couple of moments this year. So we probably have, not probably, but we have a little over 15 surprise guests. Some of them I know, some of them I don't even know. I just know that we have to make time for certain people that's gonna be on stage. So, the Wu-Tang 25th year anniversary. I've been chasing DMX for years. In and out of jail, long term, but he's back, he's on top of his game. Yeah. Raphael Sadiq, I've been chasing for 4 years. So time was perfect with the new album coming out. But I'm definitely gonna tell you, the KP, the great set with Pharrell and Usher. So there's gonna be like 10 additional acts on that set. I know about 5 of them. That is going to be a moment. So the only names we announced on that set was Pharrell and Usher. So you can only guess what's coming after that. So that's going to be a moment, that's it. Who else, man?
Florida All-Stars.
The Florida All-Stars. So all of the family. So I had to have, I had to get ratchet. I had to get Uncle Luke, and that was the first person pulled in. Because actually, I take that back. We talked to Trina and Trick first, and they wanted to do it. And I was like, wait. Let's just put that on pause for a second, because it's not a Florida All-Star set without Uncle Luke. Right. So I said, we first had Luke sign off on it, and then everything else would fall in place. Then Luke finally came on board, and that's when he said, all right, we let's go forward, this All-Star set. That's what we praise.
Bring your super soakers. So bring your super soakers. But no, it's gonna be exciting. So I guess we'll open it up for some questions. Anybody, step on up to the mic, to the stage right, people's left?
Yeah, stage right.
Stage right, people's left? We'll take a couple questions.
What's up, James? I got a question. Have you ever considered putting together a documentary about it, a movie, and really showing? Because I think there's a lot of culture that's happened, and a lot of that you kind of captured the last 25, 30 years almost of Atlanta hip-hop culture and blackness and all of that. And has there ever been a thought to kind of put that together and do something like that?
Definitely, yeah, and we document everything. So yeah, we thought about it. Didn't realize how expensive it is to put together a documentary and also get clearances with all the acts and music. So it's a little bit of a grind to put it together. But we pitched that idea to a couple of studios, possible investors, and just really kind of waiting for the right moment. But yeah, no, we got stockpiles of content from 10 years, man. But yeah, it's in the makings. It's in the makings.
Hey, I have a question. When you said the 5 years that you took losses, did your sponsors, did they pressure you in the form of backing out, or was it just your wife who stayed in your corner and really drove you? Or did the sponsors start saying, hey, or did they look at the numbers as real investors and say, well, at least the fan base is going up, so we'll stick with it, but you got this amount of time, or was it just an open continuation of the previous sponsorship relationships?
The sponsors were cool. Sponsors are really about, and most of our sponsors were spirit sponsors, so they're all about consumption and numbers. And one thing that we know how to do is drink. So their numbers were fine. He'll be back next year. But the amount of the investment could not sustain the festival by itself. And I would say some of the earlier growing pains was really educating the urban community on what festival life is. Because Live Nation said it to us at first. We tried to get them involved when we first started. They was like, black folks, they ain't gonna go to the outdoor festival. They want to buy a ticket for a concert, sit in the seat for 2 hours, and go home. They don't be braving the elements outside, running stage to stage, and partying. And I was like, I disagree. I think we will. So a lot of the 5 years of pain was education, and just educating the audience and the community of what festival life is, and it's a different way to experience music.
Question for you. As somebody who comes from the HC background, what does that process, system, infrastructure, that grind look like? Because I think a lot of people say, oh, these events just happen, but it's a lot of preparation that goes along with it. What does that look like in terms of the day in the life of Jay Carter and team?
It's a team. It's definitely a team. So it's not a one-man thing by any shot. That's actually one of my assistants. First personal assistants back in the day. That's Ada. Yeah, give it up for Ada, straight out of D-Ball. Let me get it right. There you go. But it's a team. It's putting the right folks around you. And I tell folks this all the time. A lot of times we're so, I don't know if I'm answering your question, so what does the grind look like? But we're so aspirational that we're looking up. You know, like, I want to be Russell Simmons, or I want to be, Puffy or Diddy, And instead of looking up, sometimes you gotta look lateral. And I had to look at the people around me, the team and the folks around me, and if they share my same vision and dream, then you link up. You know what I'm saying? And you build together, and then, you get to a point to where, collectively that you all rise. You know what I'm saying? It's putting together the right team, and don't always look up. Sometimes you have to look side to side and link up with the folks that's been with you all along. Ada.
That was actually a part of my question. But in thinking about your team, knowing that you've been working with the same folk for a long time, right? The people that aren't there anymore, when did you know to let those people go?
So, sometimes it's, sometimes you can't keep a pretty bird in a cage. You gotta let that bird fly. So every year since I actually started, I would always bring on like 10 interns. And then actually I realized probably a couple of years after that 10 interns quickly turned into 5. Because 5 of them just gonna bail out, it's too much work, or they in the day there was something else. And then you'll get 5 that kind of stay on, and you'll get 3 that really kind of just really pull away. But with your teammates, you have people on your team that may look at you and aspire to do what you do. You left us and went on to do crazy, ridiculous events, right? But while we were working in that office every day, you know what I'm saying? You was putting together the blueprint, right? And at some point, you get to a point where you say, all right, it's time for me or for us to bring in new blood, because honestly, I think that's what really kind of keeps brands growing. You got to reach back. A lot of brands that I see that fail, they're just stagnant and they're stuck in one way of doing things, and they don't reach back to a younger generation. For us, I think, sometimes we age out. As you get older, your expenses change. You're like, yeah, this has been great, but these bills get bigger and your paycheck ain't, right? So, at a certain point, you gotta let that bird fly.
Hello. So So my question basically is that once you started reaching across and you have a team, my thing is how do you use your team in order to attract sponsors? Because there's money out there, and we know there's money out there, but how do we make them feel comfortable with knowing that we know how to help them to not only expand their brand with our community, but only to get them to trust us with their money, to expand it to our community, to trust our community to give them money, their money back.
That's a good question. So with brand sponsorship, you'll get 100 no's before you get a yes. And the other thing about check writers have favorites, right? So they already got people in line that's gonna get that money. Once that check comes in or once that budget comes in, they already know how they're gonna allocate those funds. So for us, it's hard to overlook greatness. And for us, we said, let's make so much noise that they can't ignore us, right? So, you know, it was kind of the situation at the Heineken, Emily, the Heineken rep that was at the party. Like the party just kind of got to a surge, got to a point, and it was popping. It was an event that everybody just wanted to attend and be at, which is why she was there. And at that point, she was like, how do I get my brand involved? And that's when we kind of figured it out. But the other thing is, all it takes is one. And I would say if you get one brand to sign up, you have to treat them like gold. Go beyond the call of duty for them, right? I mean, if they ask for this, give them this. And let that be your case study, right? So let that be your case study, and then you present that to other brands. Well, look what we did with Toyota, Ford. Look what we did with Heineken, Coors Light. We can do this and better for you, right? So once you get that one on the hook, treat it like gold. Treat it like gold. But it's a grind. Sponsorship is all relationship. All relationship. So you may think like you got the best mousetrap. I mean, it's a 1,000 proposals on the desk. So, you know, it's going to take a lot of handshakes, taking folks out to lunch, invite them out to all your events for free. Once they get there, take care of them, and just kind of you know, cultivate that relationship.
That's good, Jay. Marcel Alexander. That's kind of my question, but you're 10 years into One Music Fest, and when you're 10 years into something, it seems like it can run itself, where you have people that you don't really have to be there to run it, but what other ventures are you working on for the future?
Okay, thank you. It's one of our
Stay up in myself.
esteemed on-left ambassadors right there. So we're looking at going to another city. We got tapped on the shoulder to explore possibly doing something overseas. And we also are building out a digital platform as well. Building out a digital platform, well, actually it's a few things. Building out a digital platform, but also, how do I explain this? We're also building out a platform where we're using our resources and our reach to get thought leaders to help folks like us put together our playbooks step by step. So without giving it away, we're working on something that's a little bit more intimate with industry leaders for folks like us. Those industry leaders are feeding folks like us.
I just want to shout out Marcel one time. He got my shoes on. I appreciate you for wearing them tonight. Check out his album. It's on streaming. Marcel Alexander with a C. I just shout him out. I'm sorry.
Hello, hi Jay, my name is Iris. I'm an old OMF volunteer from back in 2012, 2013, in Elliott. So thank you because you helped reinforce my dream of working in marketing. I come from African parents. I was supposed to be a doctor, engineer, and lawyer, so I failed. So thank you so much. My question is about how do you describe an instance where you had an ethical conflict of working with particular brands? Because we know now, right, culturally, a lot of brands just want to, you know, take our cultural equity and run with it, and they don't actually treat our people well.
Yeah.
So you can just, like, how do you manage that basically?
That's a great question. Ironically, about 4 months ago, we met with Papa John's. The conversation with Papa John's was they were looking to get involved with certain events, certain brands. And I was like, let's talk about it, right? So we, let me go back a little bit. So I think there's a way to do good with money, right? And back when we started Soul Fusion, somebody said, y'all like the Robin Hood of nightlife. Y'all be taking from them, like giving us everything that we want, right? And, or that we need and desire. So we had a 3-tiered approach with Papa John's. We was like, all right, I understand y'all doing a lot of stuff for PR. Y'all giving money to black colleges, that's great. Y'all fired the CEO. Y'all got somebody in charge of diversity now inside. Y'all have put people of color in higher positions. That's good. A lot of black folks don't know or don't care. I think y'all have to the first thing y'all have to start is dialogue. Y'all need to do some kind of dialogue and let folks understand about cultural sensitivity. And y'all need to lead this conversation. That's the first thing y'all need to do. Then y'all need to put together there needs to be some kind of pipeline from HBCUs to franchise ownerships. Y'all got 2% black folk, less than 2% black folks that own Papa John's, right? Y'all need to create some kind of pipeline from college, start with a scholarship. Once they finish college, you put them in a program to teach them how to run and own eventually a Papa John's franchise, right? And put these in these urban pockets. So we went after them for the check. We was like, if y'all want to do something with us, y'all have to do all this first, and we want to be a part of that process and mission. And thank you. And it was probably too much for them. They went out after that and got Shaq. And but Shaq is a part of the program too, for the most part, right? But yeah, and sometimes you have to just say no to some brands, and if you don't want to say no, figure out a way in which it can better your community and your folks, so you can sleep better at night.
All right, so we got time for one more question.
That's how I take my choice.
You fine. This one, last one. All right.
I guess I got lucky. Davita Huntley, I'm a parent of a Washington High School student. And this year, Washington High School celebrated their 95th year. And it's the closest high school to the venue of Centennial Park, 95th.
Wow.
Yeah, it opened in 1924. And I wanted to find out if there's a J. Carter Foundation, where there may be a possibility that you're able to sponsor some children to experience this, because several of the students in the school may never leave their street, much less the neighborhood, to go experience artists from around the world that they usually listen to and are inspired by on YouTube or on Napster or on other listening devices.
Right. Do you have people come in and speak with the students?
Do I have?
Like people
Well, actually, one of your FAMU fellow classmates, Nina Packer, is on the Go team at Washington High School. We're pretty close. And I said, well, maybe I'll just get up and ask them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do that often, and I would love to. I don't actually have a foundation, but I think there's a lot of power in speaking with the youth and letting them know that there's other ways in which you can make money, right? You don't have to be in front of the camera. You don't have to be a producer. You can be an engineer. You can be a director. You can be a writer. You can be an event producer. But there's ways to be involved in the industry without, picking up a mic and glorifying violence and everything else in between. So yeah, I would love to get your information. I would love to come down to the school, speak with the students, and bring some folks with me.
Awesome. Thank you.
time.
So AIE is actually probably the reason why we're at Centennial Park. I just want to blow up. AIE is Georgia World Congress Center, who runs Centennial Park. And, you know, and they're only doing 4 large ticketed events a year. And I think AIE stuck their neck out there and said, you know what, y'all, one of them need to be a hip hop urban event. And we're gonna give One Music Fest down here, so thank you.
I didn't have to do all that, but thank you. I always say from the bottom of my heart, Jay, you've been great to work with. You are great to work with. And I was a fan of One Music Fest before I even thought about bringing it to Centennial. So it's very exciting to have you guys come. We hope that everyone that is here will also be attending the festival next week. So kind of in terms of one of the things that you spoke about earlier is that transition from doing things corporately and going out on your own. And, you know, were there ever any individuals, whether it was close in your circle or anywhere else, that were people that were discouraging or told you, you know what, this is something that you shouldn't be doing or what have you, and how did you combat that, and how, or even if there was self-taught and self-doubt, like how did you overcome that?
Good question. I'm trying to give you the answer without revealing people. protect the kind of innocent. But back at one of our venues, and this really kind of fueled me, like, oh no, we about to really blow this thing up. One of the spaces that we were doing the event at, in the beginning, they never did an event quite like this. You know, we were down in the middle of the city, expected probably 10,000, 8,000 some odd folks. It was hip hop, right? And you know, so come the day of the event, and he's cool. Let me not take anything away from him. You know, he's too cool guy. You know, white guy that had history of doing big concerts, and he did. I think he did a couple of festivals, and he basically said to me, you know, if you don't have $2 million in your bank account to lose, then you don't need to do festivals. I'm like, well, I ain't got $2 million. I definitely got nothing to lose. But the day of the festival, the crowd came out, and this was the year we had Goody Mob, Snoop, Joey Badass, Erykah Badu, and he called me over, looking around the crowd. He said, "Man, this is crazy." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Your crowd's not ghetto." So, it puts you in a position, right? Do you hand choke this moment? Or do you use this as a teaching moment? But that also made me say, people put hip hop in this bucket, in this little bucket, and they put black folks in this bucket. You know, I don't care if you got 20 degrees or, you know, if you're a dope boy in the trap, right? They put you all in the same bucket, right? And I said, this is another reason why One Music Fest has to exist, right? It opens brands' eyes. It opens, the more media coverage you get, the better. But it lets people say, wait a minute, y'all had this event for 10 years with no issues. You got all kinds of people, all kinds of music, every hue of life walking out throughout this event. And you know, from your dope boys to your multi-millionaire executives at the same event. You know, so it puts the progressive urban culture in a totally different light. And I think it helps kind of elevate it some and kind of changes the position of the spotlight. You know what I'm saying? So there's a few moments like that I had throughout the years that kind of fueled the fire and said, you know what, no, we have to win. We don't have a choice but to win. So I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
And we're excited to have you.
you go. First of all, I want to say thank you for the memories. Out of the 10 events you've done, I've been to about 8 of them. And like you said, there's never been any moment where you didn't deliver, where it was an artist that didn't show up. There was never any violence, so I first wanted to applaud that. Lastly, I want to also say, you said there was some artists that you chased, and you chased the DMX or Raphael Sadiq. I wanted to just ask any artist on your bucket list, your top 3.
Top 3 that we have not had yet?
Yeah.
I mean, we've been going back and forth with J. Cole for a while. I mean, this is a dream though, man. I mean, you know. So, my wife knows my crush, so she literally cut out, I have a life-size cutout of this woman. Sade. She said, if there's ever gonna be another woman, it's gonna be this cardboard woman. Sade, J. Cole, and I'd say Lenny Kravitz.
No, it's been great. Round of applause again for Jay Carter, ladies and gentlemen. A round of applause for yourself.
Malachi, thank you, sir.
Well. Hey guys, did you guys enjoy tonight's narration? Amazing. Who knew Jay Carter has such humble beginnings in Atlanta? We want to thank you guys so much for coming out tonight on behalf of Atlanta Influences Everything and the Fulton County Arts and Culture Council. Thank you so much to our narrator, Malachi Garcia, for walking us through it. And we want to direct attention to Steve Lux as he finishes up this last minute and his illustration.
Wow. That's hard.
That's dope. That's dope. I'm gonna tell you the crazy thing.
You had a high tops.
No, this is my 11th grade yearbook photo. No doubt. I have my little Malcolm X glasses and you know what I'm saying, my high top, my little part, you know, weighed about 150 pounds. Yeah. Oh man, I appreciate it. That's amazing.